Welcome to another episode of Distilling the West podcast. I'm your host, Dan, and today I have a guest host, Oliver. How you doing today, Oliver?
Hey, I'm good, Dan. How are you?
Well, I'm super glad that you could join us and pinch hit on short notice. Really appreciate it. And I thought this was actually a perfect episode for this cocktail hour to have you on, because I know you do love your Manhattans, and today that's what we're covering is Manhattan cocktails. So cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Let's have a little sip of this, baby. Yeah, we're getting fancy with the stemware today, huh?
That's good.
Yeah, that is delicious. And today in this cocktail, we're using Devil's Creek Rye as the base spirit. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the history of the Manhattan cocktail. It definitely has a highly debated history, and it sounds like there's a bunch of different competing stories. At first, it was attributed to the Manhattan Bar in the 1870s, but it sounds like that kind of got disputed in the 30s, and then it got more closely attributed to the Broadway bar in New York. George Black came up with the cocktail, is what I was reading up on.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were joking that it was kind of like there's so many different stories that it was kind of like seems like a drunken game of telephone with a bunch of people. Oh no, it was this. Oh no, it was that. But it sounds like the Manhattan bar thing was kind of debunked after a while. But
Debunked and probably a product of its origin story happening there, which was what was it, like a gala or like
it was a gubernatorial
gubernatorial
celebration.
That's right.
Yeah.
And let's see, Winston Churchill's mom, Lady Winston, apparently attended this event, and it was made for the event in the OG story.
Yeah.
And then that sort of like stuck around for a long time, just because it sounded cool, I guess.
I think it sounded cool with Winston Churchill's mom being involved, but the part that kind of debunked that whole story was that at the time that celebration was, technically speaking, history documents that Lady Winston was giving birth to Winston Churchill at the time that the celebration was happening. So it was kind of like, yeah, probably not. And I think she lived at what was the Manhattan Bar before it became the Manhattan.
She lived there. She was just there all while she was pregnant too. She was
No, I'm saying like she lived there for a time period, and then there was a huge chunk of time that she was gone, and then at the time that it was supposedly attributed, the Manhattan cocktail was attributed to the Manhattan bars. No, she was in England giving birth to little Winston.
Somebody did the math there and
Yeah.
sleuthed it out, thankfully.
Yeah, but we were joking because it's like there's so many different stories, and it all seemed like one big giant game of drunken telephone. So anyways, I think the main thing about this is, this was developed in the late 1800s and the 1870s. And it's definitely like one of those precursor cocktails that a lot of other cocktails then got built off of. A lot of the early cocktails were spirit forward cocktails, which honestly is kind of my preference. Dave and I did the old fashioned in our last cocktail hour, our first cocktail hour. Go check that out. But yeah, I like it. It's because you can get fancy real quick, and you don't have to have a lot of ingredients on hand. And just the basic model, in modern day, a lot of folks are using rye, but of course you can use bourbon. And so usually the modern day recipe is 2 parts rye whiskey, or Oliver, you said you like bourbon a lot.
Yeah, I do bourbon usually.
Yeah. And then 1 part sweet vermouth, and then 2 to 3 dashes of aromatic bitters. We got all the bitters here. Chico, California represent.
Shout out.
Yep. So yeah, I like the rye because it's spicy, it's bold, you can kinda pick it out as you're, sipping it, and then, you gotta get fancy with the Luxardo cherry. I
Mm.
feel like it
That's a must.
it's a must. It
Yeah.
it it really rounds out the drink. Somehow it's just not the same
Yeah.
without that, I feel like.
These are no Sizzler, Shirley Temple, uh, low quality cherries.
Yeah,
These
no.
are like you can't start with that.
No.
That's a recipe you're for disaster.
Yeah, gotta be the Luxardo.
Yeah, Luxardo, I have heard good things about the Amarena ones.
Okay.
They're in the sort of like ceramic.
I've seen those. Yep.
Yeah. Was at Bevmo and the guy was like, "Don't buy Luxardos; those are trash. Like these are way better." And I was like, "Well, sorry, I'm buying Luxardos, but I'll have to try them sometime for sure."
Yeah, it's definitely like the gold standard, I feel like, and it just has like the texture really stands up. It's got a rich kind of ruby, red cherry
Yep.
flavor to a deep dark cherry. Um, so yeah, Oliver, you seem to be the expert on the vermouth, so I'm gonna let you talk up
I
the vermouth we're using today.
I'm not an expert on vermouth, but we do have Kochi today. This to me is probably my favorite vermouth that I have tried, right? So I've gone through probably 5 to 6 different brands,
Hmm.
and my personal experience is that vermouth probably makes the biggest difference. I think people get really caught up on like what bourbon they're using or what rye they're using, and for me, I think that vermouth brings so much. There's such a uniqueness to different varieties. Before we started, I had also brought this Antica formula vermouth as well. Yeah, this guy right here. So, we were smelling it before we started, and the Antica is barrel aged. It has a ton of vanilla character. It's a little bit sweeter. But then the Kochi has, to me, it has this really nice cola, um, like cola or root beer kind
Yeah,
of flavor. And to me, I think that's the winner. I just love that flavor. I'm a sucker for it and everything. And
yeah,
yeah. So, but you know, uh, the sweetness, I think, of vermouth is something that polarizes people a little bit. So, if you're one of those people who you don't like, you like your cocktails to be a little bit drier. People come into cocktails, I feel like, from, if you're not a bourbon or rye drinker, like it's sort of like your gateway to the harder spirits. But then there are people who kind of start from the harder spirit side
yeah.
and they get into cocktails, and I think those are the people who might find the Manhattans to be a bit sweet, um, because it's a totally different profile, and you're used to a drier, just dry rye or dry
Yeah.
bourbon. So you can make like a perfect Manhattan is one option, which halves the amount of vermouth that you use. So instead of 2 parts whiskey, rye, bourbon, what have you, and 1 part vermouth, you'll do a half part sweet vermouth, a half part dry vermouth,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and that's a perfect Manhattan.
Nice.
So it's a bit drier for different palates. Or like if you want a sweeter one, throw some of the Luxardo cherry juice in there, some of the syrup.
Yeah.
That's what my wife and I do, and it's very luxurious and rich. So kind of up to you.
Yeah, and again, I just like these spirit forward cocktails where you're getting the spirit coming through. This Devil's Creek rye, it's sitting at 100 proof, and I kind of like that on my cocktails, at least sitting at usually around 100 proof or
Yeah.
in the teens or something like that. So it lets you know it's there, and I think it's playing really well with the vermouth. We were talking that it kind of has almost like a cinnamon roll type taste to it. It's really tasty. I've never tried this Kochi vermouth in a Manhattan before, and I'm really liking it. Is it readily available, or do you kind of have to hunt it?
No, you can find it. Rayleigh's has it
Hmm,
in a 375. This is a 750. I got this one at
yeah.
Costco. Um,
Because that is one of the things with vermouth, right? Is you got to keep it refrigerated so it doesn't spoil,
no,
or
I
it,
think you
a
just
little
gotta
bit.
drink it quickly.
Yeah, I
uh,
think compared to like a whiskey, I
yeah,
think it has a little bit shorter of a shelf
yeah,
life. Um,
yeah. This one's 16%, so I think what is the fortification threshold or whatever, like 20%, where it's like becomes fully shelf stable, or
oh, I could see that.
there's a percentage where
Hmm.
above a certain amount, it'll essentially keep indefinitely, within
Yeah,
reason. But this is at 16, so it's definitely lower on the alk. So,
yeah,
you know, I, I don't know. We go through one of these bottles every 4 months,
yeah,
and that I don't
yeah.
really ever notice a loss in quality. I'm not like
Okay.
spitting out my Manhattan, and when we get
This
to the
is
dregs of the
hogwash.
bottle, yeah, it's always good.
Hogwash.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So, and then there's a couple other variations, like the Black Manhattan, right? That's pretty tasty. I believe you swap out the sweet vermouth for an Amaro, like kind of a traditional Amaro,
Oh yeah.
and then use some black walnut bitters in there for a Black Manhattan.
Yeah.
I really like those.
We actually have done that. Yeah. I didn't know that's what it was called, to be honest, but we've made those. We got into Amaro a little bit, and we were making those, and they're real tasty. It's kind of like in a little bit of that Negroni space.
Mm.
But yeah, it's good. It's good. It's Amaros are great. They pair really well with whiskey too.
Yeah, I mean, both on my old fashions and the Manhattans with the black walnut bitters. Um, it, I just really like that
Mm,
complementary flavor,
yeah.
that kind of earthy sweetness thing going
Yeah.
on. That's good stuff for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think once you start to get a handle on what the different profiles are for the vermouth, you can start to plan your Manhattans and sort of like craft them along certain flavor profiles. So like with the Kochi, I like to use the black walnut bitters, like, or at least a couple splashes of those along with, more traditional bitters. But like you can make a lighter version with like the Antica with cherry bitters,
Yeah.
and if you use like a Buffalo Trace bourbon, you can make a much more fruit forward
Okay.
sort of version of it versus like that darker, earthier, more spicy, um, like root beery version that I,
Yeah.
I tend to prefer. But it's it's fun. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, and as far as like glassware, I think we have the quintessential coupe glass.
Yeah.
If you're in a pinch, not a lot of people have coupe glassware. So oftentimes you even see bars serve them in martini glasses.
Mhm.
Um, and then, if you're in a pinch, hey, and you're at home and you're not impressing anyone, like shoot, throw it in a tumbler glass
Yeah.
or whatnot. But or maybe even like a Glencairn or a wine glass,
Mhm.
maybe
Oh yeah.
so something like that, a Copita. But yeah, this is really delicious. I hope you guys try it out and maybe tag us in one of your photos at Distilling the West with make a Manhattan with a craft spirit and from the West, of
Of
course,
course.
because we're
Always.
repping here. And yeah, let's give a cheers to Manhattans.
Cheers.
Cheers, brother.
Thank you.